Hello guys, and welcome to my new Let's Play Kerbal Space Program series. A lot of you guys put a request in for this after I uploaded my starter guide tutorial, so I thought, you know what, I think that's a good idea. Let's make a series of it. And I am starting here from the position of just after that tutorial, and we're going to aim to land on the Moon. If you haven't seen how to get to this point with those first 3 techs unlocked, or first 4 I should say, check out my starter guide video. I'll put a link on screen there. But we're going to go as if you have seen that. So, going up to 3 times speed here, I start to design our craft. So I build a lander stage that has 1 big and 1 small fuel tank, 3 mystery goo that are going to serve as our science equipment for this mission, Communicatron just in case we don't get back. I add in a lot of parachutes because I do want this to be successful and us to land it, and a lot of landing legs. Then putting in a stacked decoupler. I add in 3 more tanks with an engine, another stacked decoupler, and then 4 tanks with an engine. And this little bomb bit here is going to be our launch stage, so I add in 6 radial decouplers, adding in some more stacks of fuel tanks and engines, and this is what's going to get us off the ground. So I also add in some solid fuel boosters, and then just a few nose cones to do the little bit of aerodynamics. And after playing around with the staging so that everything goes at the right time, we have our first craft to try and land on the moon. Jebediah in the command seat. I name it, I think, Moon Mission 1 or something along those lines. And we are ready for our first attempt. And I'm feeling really hopeful that we definitely have enough power to get us there. It's just if I can fly it right. But we should have no problems really. So we warp out onto the landing pad. So wait for it, there we go. So I turn on the resources, and it looks quite wobbly, so I'm keeping an eye on that. And shit. That is not what we wanted at all, guys, but luckily the command pod somehow managed to roll itself away from those explosions into safety, and Jebediah didn't die. So we do a crew report, because why the hell not, and recover vessel. So back to the drawing board. So I go back into the VAB and take a look, and it turns out the whole thing was resting on just that central engine, which is not stable at all. So I rejig the layout of it so that it's resting on those outer solid boosters, and think that that should be enough to keep it together. And as you can see, it's much less wobbly. Still a little bit, probably because those radial decouplers were so low down. I probably should have had them up on that second fuel tank, but oh well, you live and learn. And because of that, they bend in slightly from that pivot point, and the whole thing starts to spiral, which isn't ideal, but it is not a disaster. We can live with a bit of spiraling, just so long as the solid boosters don't go too crazy. So we're going up to ×2 speed here, because it's a lot of just waiting to get to places, so I thought we'll speed it up a little bit. So as the spinning starts to get a bit out of hand, luckily the solid boosters run out and we're able to drop those, and immediately the ship seems to regain its control, and we head up straight, no problems there, with our mini launch stage going. And we can see here that I'm going to do a little bit of observation of the mystery goo. I already have what it is, so we don't get much science, but it's still something. And I'm checking there, and actually it's not the ideal time to be launching for the moon, or the Moon should I say, because we're slightly in the wrong place in our rotation of curving to hit directly at it, but it's nothing too big, we're still quite close. So we're going to plan to shoot past the moon's orbit and come back and then hit it. So I go up until we've got an apoapsis of around 100,000, and I start to play around with some maneuver nodes, trying to get an ideal one where we will just come up and hit our peak when we get captured by the moon. But I keep doing what I described earlier of flying past it, and that's not actually the best, because it's a bit wasteful on fuel, which we don't have that much of left. We did use quite a lot to burn to get ourselves this high up out of Kerbin's gravity. So I play around for ages and I'm not finding anything, so I decide to give up when I realise that actually I might be aiming too far in one direction. Maybe if I spin my fin round, I'll be able to get it better. So I fiddle around with that idea for a while, still not really getting anything, and then I realise, oh crap, I've actually gone way past this manoeuvre node, so I spent so much time fiddling around with it. So I scrap the idea of making this a nice planned scientific mission, and I just burn flat out in one direction and hope for the best, because, you know, why not? What's the worst that can happen? So, dropping the landing stage, we actually have very little fuel left in this bottom section. It's almost not worth having it as two separate, but it does mean we get a slight bit of burn on the lower weight, so it's slightly more efficient. But pretty soon that runs out and we drop that, and we're on our transition stage now, the stage designed to get us over to the moon and on our way down to land on it. So we're burning here. I cancelled that manoeuvre node because we completely missed it, thanks to me not really paying attention. I set the moon as our target and start to burn. I do a couple of observations of goo along the way just to pick up a tiny bit of bonus science, but really the big things are going to come once we get on to the moon and we get landed and go out exploring. So you can see I'm burning and raising that apoapsis, getting it closer to the trajectory of the moon, and as I burn we see those tiny little triangles that represent our closest encounter, and when they get close we get captured by the moon's orbit. So now it's just a case of warping up and getting that encounter. So time warping across, I realised I could actually try and get a high Kerbal orbit, so I do that and then carry on. And as we loop round we see the moon shooting in, and there we go, we are captured by its orbit. And there it is, we're actually pretty close. I've been quite far out when I've been captured before, so that's pretty good. So I circle round to point retrograde and start to burn to reduce our speed and get us into a nice orbit around the moon. You can see me doing there, and we get a nice, almost circular, a bit lopsided, but who cares about that? We're not going to be staying here for long, we're going to be landing down on the surface. So I observe the goo and then I shoot round a bit so we can land on the light side, because there's nothing worse than trying to land in the darkness. That is terrible, as if landing wasn't hard enough as it was. So again, burning retrograde to bring down our trajectory into a collision course, and I have almost no fuel left. And I decide to quick save there, which is lucky because I walk far too close and then have a panic moment, and as I'm hurtling towards the ground, I should not have time warped that much. I tried to burn flat out to try and slow ourselves down, and as you might be able to tell by how close those craters are coming and how fast, we're not going to stop in time. We're coming in far too quickly. I did not start slowing down nearly soon enough, and just on cue we fire like a missile straight into the ground and explode into a fiery ball of death. Not the best, so luckily I did quick save before I did that time warp. So I load that up, and this time being a lot more careful about the speed I time warp in. I get a bit further out when I start to burn this time, burning retrograde, and we want to cancel out our horizontal velocity, so we're just going straight down onto the moon's surface and we don't start tipping over and crashing into the side of things, so that can get very messy. So burning, I start to raise the angle that we're burning at, because as we're slowing down our horizontal velocity we are still accelerating down by the moon's gravity, so that means that the velocity vector we're pointing at starts to change and we start to head more vertically down, which is what we want. Probably didn't need to get that technical about it, but meh, who cares? Someone might understand. Anyway, so we're going straight down now, almost. You can see as our speed hits almost zero, we are almost stationary above the moon, and then we start to accelerate back down towards the center. So I time warp down a bit and then burn to slow us down so we don't come in too fast. And don't judge this the best, it's a bit fuel inefficient because I end up having to do this a couple of times. But I'm a bit high here, so once I get down to around 30 meters per second, I time warp a bit closer, and as I get back up to around 90, I burn again to keep my speed under control because I don't want to rocket into the ground. Don't want any repeats of that, definitely. And as we get in closer here, I'm looking for the telltale shadow of our craft to let me know how close I am. So checking where the sun is, I managed to spot it. And that gives you a good judge of how close you are to the ground and what speed you want to be going. So, keeping us at a very slow speed to get a very nice gentle touch, almost stopping in the air there, we managed to land, but we tip over. I'm not able to save it, we don't have enough torque to keep ourselves upright, which is a shame. But we did it, we landed on the moon regardless of how sideways we are. So we're back to 1 times, so we're at normal speed now. And I do a couple science experiments, I do a crew report, and we're getting some really good signs for this. But it's when I EVA this Jebediah Kerbin, and we get our surface sample and our EVA report, we get the real signs. So I'm walking around because I want to get a nice thumbnail here with the flag, so I'm going to pick a nice spot over on the sunny side where we can see what we're doing. I take a surface sample and 120 science. That is a phenomenal amount of science. And another EVA report there. And because I walk, I actually cancel the ability to do a flag. So I'm going to redo that EVA report so I can get my flag planted as a memorial, because this has been a very successful first episode. We managed to land someone on the moon with only 2 fiery death explosions and only 1 quick load, so I'm going to call that a success for me at least. So I put down the flag for the moon landing site, and now I'm going to play around for a bit trying to get a screenshot, which isn't the most fun to watch. I'm going to do a little cut here. See you in a sec. So, heading back to the craft after I've got that thumbnail all sorted, we jump on, get in, and now we have the problem, how do we get ourselves upright? So the first thing I do is quick save, because this could go horribly, horribly wrong. So I try seeing if I can play around with the torque enough to get us actually upright and stationary, but we simply don't have the power to do so. We're just gonna not be able to lift the weight, center of mass must be too high or something like that. But anyway, I think if I roll this craft round so that I can, oh no, I've hit the flag, roll over the top of the flag, come on, get it, there we go, over the flag. So yes, if I roll it round so we're pointing uphill, I might be able to boost and sort of skim up the top and launch ourselves off that way. Not the most efficient or safe thing, but it just might be crazy enough to work. So eventually I managed to roll this craft around. It has a habit of not really doing what I want it to, which isn't the best. But eventually I lower those landing legs once I get it in a kind of upward and controllable position. I think they should be going down any minute now. Come on. I'm sure this happens soon. Being a professional YouTuber. There we go. So I then try and wiggle us a bit more straight, and we start to burn. So checking our fuel, we don't want to waste too much doing this. And I forgot to actually put SAS on and keep us straight. Oh, don't want to hit the flag again. Alright, we're going to go this direction. I guess that'll do. So we just burn nice and gently. Oh, it seems like we're fine, whatever that was. Nice and gently, and we'll get over this hill. And oh no, we're starting to spin. That's not great. But now if we just go full throttle, we should lift off. Full throttle. Shit. That is not what we wanted to do either. It seems to be the habit of this episode. Anyway, quick load. Pretend that never happened. No one saw it. I swear. Anyway, we're going to try that again, but a little less wobbly and going off into the crazy bit over to the right where everything blows up and dies, because that's not what we want. So I lower the landing legs first to make it a lot easier to turn the craft, because for some reason I did not think of that the first time. I think actually here I'm having another attempt at using the torque to self-right us, but it's just not working. So I spin the craft around, and I try and keep it this time so that our nav bar in the center bottom there is horizontal in the right way, so that my controls are working how I'm looking. It just makes it easier to work out what I'm doing. So pointing straight up, I put SAS on to lock us in the right direction. But I worry that this might have a problem with us taking off and not letting us pull up. So I think in the end I turn that off. I try and figure out whether I should have the landing gear up to get that bit of a downward point. But in the end, I think I put it down. Yes, I do. So burning very lightly, and then I start going up, get a bit of speed, full throttle, and over that low hill. And we do it miraculously. We managed to get off the surface there without any explosions. God knows how. I wonder what the god, the religion is in Kerbal Space Program. I guess being a very scientific base game, they didn't put much thought into that. Who knows. Anyway, so we're burning up now, and we're getting quite low on fuel. We have less than half left. So we have to start thinking about the most efficient way to get ourselves back to Kerbin now. So we get a pretty high apoapsis, so I cut the engines just about now when we hit around 100,000. And I start playing around again with maneuver nodes, trying to see how we can do it. I see if I should just burn straight to get out of the moon's gravity. But that's going to get me into a massively high orbit. So I decide that's not very good. So I try to burn directly at Kerbin, and that works quite well. I think that's going to get us almost for a direct collision course, which will be very fuel efficient, which is what we need right now. So I play around with trying to get the timings for this to be right, and I boost up towards it. So we're around 30 seconds beforehand, so I think that's pretty decent. And start to burn. And now it's just a case of expanding our trajectory so that we'll escape the moon's orbit, and we will do that collision course that we planned. So I delete the maneuver node because I don't need this to be precise. I'm not going for anything that delicate. So I just burn to try and get it, and it doesn't happen quite like the maneuver node predicted, but it's still good enough. And just on the way out, I realised I never did an EVA report in orbit around the moon, so I do one there. And we escape from the moon's orbit just about here, and then we zip around to our apoapsis, burn retrograde to reduce our periapsis into a collision course. So a little bit of extra fuel, but nothing we can't afford here. We can see we're easily going to manage with what we have left on this craft. Burning, and it's actually looking as if we're going to hit right at the Kerbal Space Center, which would be a miraculous feat of good luck there. But with, of course, the spinning of the orbit, we end up missing it and coming down a bit nearer this desert. So, as we come in, we're going to re-enter atmosphere, which will cause us to burn with some nice fiery red colours as we're re-entering, which I think that's about to happen now. I open up the landing gear to get as much drag as possible, so I want to slow down as much as possible. I burn a little to reduce our entry speed. There we see the fiery lights as we're re-entering the atmosphere, followed very shortly after by some white wisps as we're re-entering through the higher density air. And as those start to disappear, we use the last of our fuel to reduce some of that horizontal velocity. As we hit around 5,000 meters above sea level, we open our parachutes in their first stage, and this slows us down very nicely. I'm quite confident we're going to land here. 500 meters, they open fully, and then we just have to drift down at a nice leisurely 4.7 or 8, whatever it is, meters per second. I can't actually read it from the tiny little screen that I'm recording this narration off of. But anyway, we land nice and safely, no problems there. So now I have the idea, I could take a water surface sample. So I do a quick save just in case I can't manage to get back in the craft. And then I EVA to try and do that. But of course, this is very stupid of me because we can only have one surface sample and we already got one at the moon. Why would we want some crappy old seawater when we have that? So when I actually come to do the EVA, I realise this is a really stupid idea, and as it happens I was right to quick save because I can't get in at all. So I do the EVA report with 0.6 science, which isn't worth anything really. Realise I can't get in and have to do that quick load. So I think I do it now. Thank God for that feature in this game, or it would have been a lot harder to do this mission. Anyway, quick load in and we just recover the vessel. And there we have it, guys. That has been our first episode, and it's been a very successful one, I think. I mean, look at these results that are about to pop up. 226 science for that mission is fantastic. So we've got a few options on what we can spend this on. We could, down at the bottom, get a new science tech, which would mean we're getting more science. We could get some probe bodies so that we don't have to send and risk the lives of our Kerbins. We could get struts, which are fantastic and will stop those crazy spiraling designs as before. And we could get advanced rocketry, which isn't that great, but it does lead on to some very good things, some bigger engines. So I want you guys to let me know what you think we should buy with the science we got from this mission. And then also let me know if you've liked this. It's been the pilot episode. We'll see if you think this is a good idea to carry this on and reach out to some further planets maybe once we get a bit higher tech. So let me know what you've thought, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.